Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of Here's How I Blackboarded. This time it's going to be hashtag ouch with Carrier Flagship and Lord of the Abyss. So some information about this run is that this was a very kind of annoying run to optimize for the early game. Just because we do need to save as much money as possible to be able to afford Brickle as early as humanly possible, and to also save up for Destroyer before round 36. The reason why we need Destroyer before round 36 is because you can't really beat the pink wave with this defense that I came up with without Destroyer. And I figured, we'd spend way too much money trying to beat round 36 that we would end up delaying Destroyer too much and spending money on towers that I wouldn't really be using for kind of the rest of the run. The reason why I go for Destroyer first instead of the Mermonkey, which is cheaper, by the way. The issue is that base Mermonkey has really low range, and it doesn't really get that much better until you actually get the kind of Mermonkey bottom path synergy going on, and I didn't really want to spend that much time and money to try to invest into doing that. It'd probably just be cheaper and makes more sense just to go for Destroyer first. Now, if you would like to view the full unedited run, the link to that will be in the pinned comment or in the description, whichever you prefer. We're going to get Brickle down in the middle of round 13, which will be perfect as we do want her up by round 15. We also do need her Naval Tactics ability to get past a few early game rounds, and as well as, try to level her up as much as possible for the Naval Tactics ability for her late game rounds. We'll be using Mega Mine a little bit, like here and there. I believe we use it on like round 99 and whatnot. But I'm not really using Brickle for her Mega Mine in this run. We're using her mainly for Naval Tactics. We're going to speed past these early game rounds just because not really much happens. It's your standard 202 sub start into Destroyer. I am recording the audio in post just because since this is a very kind of RNG heavy run in the early game, I was kind of doubting that I was actually going to beat this in like a reasonable amount of time, and I didn't really kind of want to spend maybe let's say, I don't know, like half an hour or so constantly dying and having to restart and say lines over and over again. So I figured it'd probably just be easier just to record this in post. Funnily enough, this run here was actually kind of my first actual real attempt here of trying to black border this. Before I was really just trying to retrying the last round, just kind of optimizing and seeing what could change to actually kind of beat these rounds. But surprisingly, we actually got lucky here and I actually beat this my first try, so I probably should have live recorded, but well, it happens. Anyways, on round 34, we are pretty close to Destroyer. Round 34 gives a surprisingly amount of money. But anyways, round 35 is a little bit scary because after these white balloons comes rainbows. And the rainbow balloons normally aren't really too much of a threat, but you actually do need to use Naval Tactics here in order to beat the rainbows. Sub can't handle it. But after you beat the rainbows, we just pop a few balloons and we get Destroyer on round 35. We're actually even able to get 320. As you can see, it's pretty easy. Destroyer can easily handle these rounds. And so now that we've got that, we're pretty much set. Even camos aren't really going to be too much of an issue. So now that we've gotten our Destroyer down, we can now start working on our Mermonkey, which is going to be going in a little bit of a central position. I'm just trying to figure out how central do I want it. It's not going to do a whole lot because, as you can see, even when placed in water, the Mermonkey's range is pretty low. It can barely hit the bottom lane, and it can't really kind of hit the kind of left side. Thankfully, Destroyer is powerful enough to be able to handle all of these rounds, so it doesn't really kind of matter too much. And so we're not going to be seeing Mermonkey do too much until we get some bottom path Mermonkeys to actually boost the range. So you might be wondering, how did I choose these two towers? Well, first things first, I wanted to do a strategy involving the Mermonkey in some way. I've already kind of done some Final Harmonic stuff, so just kind of let me pop Sidon, or going for, of course, Lord of the Abyss. I didn't really want to try to save up for Pop Sidon. It's like around 60k, and I really didn't want to deal with kind of the ability timing and whatnot for the kind of tier 4. So I was like, I don't really want to deal with that, so we're just going to deal with Lord of the Abyss. And so, of course, since it's a water tower, I need to do some water-based strategies with it to take full advantage of it. And so I figured the best way is probably just to do some Carrier Flagship. It just kind of shows that random, not for really any particular reason. Anyways, you may have noticed that I got a base sub down. That submarine isn't going to be used until much later on. That's going to turn into first strike. I just got it down now, so that way I made sure I had space for its later on. Anyways, now that we've gotten a decent amount of mermonkeys down, I'm actually going to get down an ice tower to turn into Arctic Wind. The reason for this is that I'm going to put a village on the kind of frozen water in order to kind of give my destroyer counter protection as well as take advantage of jungle drums. I could have maybe have tried to gone for reactor. The only issue with it is that it's not in a central position. It's like way towards the right, so it's not gonna like really be that good at decamoing. And so I figured, it'd probably just be better and easier just to try to go and save for a village, as this mid game is pretty free. This is a pretty easy mid game. Now we've got our like kind of main towers down. Now mid game was so free that I'm actually just going to again speed pass it, just because not really kind of much happens. We just kind of buy the tier 4 mermonkey as well as aircraft carrier. I'm going to be jumping forward to the beginning of round 62, as I did want to show off round 63 with the strategy. It's not actually going to be as difficult or close as you think. Part of the reason is just that round 63 isn't really as difficult as it's kind of made out to be. Nowadays, lots of towers can easily handle the majority of 63. But anyways, as you can see here, round 63 basically just gets sort of deleted. It was a bit close there due to plane targeting, but as you can see with waves 2 and 3, it's not going to be as close. As you can see, even use the ability here. We're not counted for wave 3, which is the largest, but we don't actually even need it anyways. As you can see, it just gets straight up deleted. Abyssal Warrior is really good at dealing with 63 just because it has pretty high pierce with the tentacles, as well as Arctic Wind also slowing down part of the wave also does massively help. Again, going to be fast forwarding through the mid game until we afford carrier flagship, just because again, really easy mid game. Not really too much happens here. Now we afford carrier flagship in the kind of early 70s. We're not going to be able to get Lord of the Abyss until I believe it's also the early 80s. This is kind of fine, as carrier flagship can handle the early 80s on its own. It's not really going to be until kind of like the mid to late 80s where I'd start to get a little bit worried about not having Lord of the Abyss up, as you are kind of using Lord of the Abyss for kind of cleanup, so like ceramic cleanup, as it's pretty decent against ceramics I have seen. We're also going to be using it as support because the sludge, or I guess the ink you would call it, that it throws out does slow down mobs, which is very helpful. It means that we don't really need mob glue. I was tempted to kind of get relentless glue, but I figured I'd rather invest that into other means of support, like overclock, which we are going to end up getting this run, as well as balloon sabotage is also another good one, as well as I guess save money for first strike on round 100. Speaking of the early 80s, let's just skip to it. We're on round 81, and as you can see, we're like very close to affording Lord of the Abyss, but as you can see, carrier flagship is easily able to handle this round just fine at all. We are able to get it in the middle of 81, so that's going to be the main cornerstone of our defense. It's going to be carrier flagship as well as Lord of the Abyss. Overall, it's a fairly kind of cheap defense. I think it only costs in total like 60 or so K if you include all the tiers. So not really kind of too expensive, definitely cheaper than some tier 5s individually, but we are going to be getting a bottom path mermonkey just for support. And something that I did not realize until I saw a post about it on Reddit is that the reason why the mermonkey looks the way it does is because, well, it's based off of a siren, which, if you are familiar with that, they just women in the ocean who try to lure sailors with their music. I completely didn't even realize this until I saw someone make a post about it, just because, I don't know, it just wasn't the first thing I kind of thought of, and so it kind of makes me feel a little bit silly for, I guess, not realizing that, but oh well, better late than never. Even though it should be pretty obvious that's what NGQ was kind of going for, especially since, it lures things with song, but oh well, it doesn't really kind of matter too much. Anyways, we get a MIB here just for the lead popping. Carrier flagship can't pop leads anymore, and I'm not actually sure if Lord of the Abyss tentacles can hit lead. I think I did comment on that when I made my Mermonkey video, is that Mermonkey can't hit leads, but still, I just got it just in case, not like it hurts too much. Getting a Snowstorm, which is also going to be a very valuable support option, as the cooldown for it is pretty slow, and just having like half a second of stun is always nice. Anyways, next support tower I want to get is going to be Overclock, just to deal a little bit more burst DPS with the kind of carrier flagship, as I was feeling a tad bit weak with carrier, even with kind of all the buffs it has. We are definitely struggling to ZMGs, as you can kind of see with 88. So I wanted to kind of do a little bit more ZMG DPS, so of course we're going to get Overclock to try to help that out. It does mean that you know, we're going to be spending kind of a lot of money, and we are going to get first strike. I wouldn't really say a little bit late, but definitely a lot later than I guess, you know, you would want to in order to kind of be comfortable. Anyways, I don't really have much more to say about this run, so I guess you can just kind of enjoy the last 10 rounds until I actually end up black bordering this. If you enjoyed the video, you know, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Join Discord, link is down below in the description. Have a nice day, everyone.